Joining us then to look ahead to this one is the former Manchester City striker, Paul Dickov. Paul, good morning. How are you?
Morning, Paul.
Good morning, Ray. Good morning, Natalie. How are we getting on?
Yeah, all very well. How are you?
Yeah, good. Good. Looking forward to the weekend. Obviously, big game on Sunday, two of my former clubs.
Yeah.
Going to be the best game of the season so far, I think. The last couple of games, I know Manchester City have won at the Emirates scoring 3, then at the Etihad scoring 4, but they were two really top quality games, and for me, it's the two best teams in the Premier League going head to head.
It does feel like it's come around early in a weird way, this game already between these two sides.
Yeah, it does, and I don't think the game on Sunday will be any sort of on the title race. There's still a long way to go, but I look at it and Manchester City win, they can go 4 points clear, and obviously Arsenal will be looking to try and overturn the sort of form that they've had against Manchester City, because I know apart from the Community Shield at the start of the season, City's record against Arsenal has been absolutely fantastic.
Paul, what do you make of last week? Bit of a blip for Man City going to Wolves, and no one expected that. Obviously, I'm always very happy when they do lose that first game, because for me, they're the only big rivals that can go probably unbeaten with the squad they've got and the depth they've got in the squad. So what went wrong last week, Paul?
Yeah, look, possession-wise, Manchester City are always going to dominate games. From now, I know it sounds crazy to say it, but they have missed a lot of chances already this season, and in the opposition box, they're creating chances, they've just not been putting them away, which normally they do. They've still scored a lot of goals this season. I know people are crazily questioning Erling Haaland at the minute. He's still got 8 goals in 7 games, and he has been missing a few chances that would normally put away. But the one thing about him is he always puts himself in the positions, and the Wolves game was a bit of a blow. But, Ray, yourself, the one thing this Manchester City team do is when they have had a defeat, that you wouldn't put it past them to go on and win the next 6-7 games, because I've shown that before. They always get a reaction. Rodri's going to be a huge miss. I think everybody knows that, especially against an Arsenal team who are going to press them quite high up the pitch. But at the same time, the squad depth that they've got. Matheus Nunes has come in from Wolves and looked as if he's been there quite a long time. Kovacic has really impressed everybody since he's been there. So it'll be interesting how Pep sets his team up against Arsenal on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm always looking at the midfield, Paul, as probably vital. Central midfield, who's going to get the possession of the ball, and we all know they're fantastic players on both sides. I know Rodri's a massive miss for Man City. He's been absolutely brilliant. But I'm really looking forward to seeing how Declan Rice handles it now, because I think he's going to play better against the bigger sides.
He's in a better team. That's no disrespect to West Ham. He's people are wondering how he's going to settle in at Arsenal. I think he's raised his game to a different level already, playing with better players around him. And when you're a top player like Declan is, you want to test yourself against the best. And there's no doubt Manchester City, how they dominate the ball, how they want to keep possession, keep asking questions, especially of that sort of defensive midfielder. And it's going to be a big game for Declan the weekend. And I know Rodri's going to be missing, but Jack Grealish has come back in. One of the biggest things for me about the Champions League game on Wednesday was having Bernardo Silva back.
Yeah.
Because wherever he plays, whether it's wide or in the middle of the park, he's a huge influence in the game.
Paul, don't tell me you've got a calendar of Jack Grealish as well, his calves.
Have you seen this, Paul? In the paper today, somebody has come up with a calendar. So every month you can see a different picture of Jack Grealish's calves.
His calves are bigger than me, Ray. As in a whole. So, no, it's some weird people out there, isn't there? But as in Jack, last season after the World Cup, since he came back in, I genuinely believe he was consistently Manchester City's best player.
Yeah.
Pep has always played him in the big games away from home. I know Doku's came on and scored the other night there. But I think Pep really trusts Jack now, not just in an attacking sense, but to keep the ball, get them up the pitch. But defensively, he's come on so much as well. And that's why in these big games, alongside the likes of Bernardo Silva, he's usually one of the biggest picks.
You mentioned the form of Erling Haaland and some people questioning him because he unbelievably hasn't scored in his last 2 games for Manchester City, so he's off the boil already. But one player who seems to be coming to the fore is Julian Alvarez. What have you made of his start to this season and the role that he's playing?
Yeah, he's a superstar already. Last season, because of the form of Erling Haaland and obviously Kevin De Bruyne, Phil Foden being the team, he maybe didn't play as much as he wanted to, but he always contributed, whether he was starting the games, whether he was coming off the bench. He's played wide, he's played as a 9. This season he's been playing as a 10 just off Haaland, and it's really suited him, Natalie. His work rate is phenomenal. but the quality he's got in and around the box, and I think he's only 22 years old. He's just won the treble. He's won the World Cup last season. And the one thing about him being in and around the club is that it's his attitude and how he is, how humble he is, how hard-working he is, how he wants to improve, how he's never ever spat his dummy out. He just won the World Cup and then he comes back to sit on the bench for Manchester City, and he just gets on with it. He wants to improve all the time, and on the pitch he's impressed everybody, but more so off the pitch, his attitude is the one thing that stands out for everybody at the club.
Paul, who's going to push City the most? Obviously, massive favourites to win the league again. What club is it? Arsenal? Is it Liverpool? Can Spurs have a run this season? Who would you say their biggest rivals are this season for the title?
I think it's going to be Arsenal and Liverpool. I've loved watching Spurs play this season under Big Ange. I've seen a lot of how his team set up when he was at Celtic. You can see already that they've got a style of play, they've got a philosophy of play. So it's whether they can keep that up. The one thing that stood out over the last few seasons has been Manchester City squad depth. If they had to have injuries, they've got the quality to come off the bench and change the games. Rotation, when I look at Arsenal's squad now, it's a lot stronger than it was last season. And Liverpool look as if they're not going to go away. They had a terrible season last year, but they've started this season really, really well. So, but if you had to push me, I think it's going to be between Manchester City and Arsenal again. I think they're the two best teams out there. I think they're the two best attacking teams as well. So it's going to be closer than it was in the end last season. But I still expect Manchester City just to go on this run. But we're saying they're not playing that well at the minute, and they're still top of the league after a defeat. And I'm just ready for them to really kick on again already.
I think you've got to go back to 2015 for the last time Arsenal beat City in the Premier League.
Is that right?
I think that's what it is. Not the best of records. Can you call it for Sunday then, Paul?
I think it's going to be tight, but I genuinely just got the feeling that, especially if Saka's out, I can't. You'll know better than me, Ray. If he's come off with a muscle injury in midweek, it's a big ask, especially when you've limped off in the first half to turn that round and play 4 or 5 days later. He's Arsenal's talisman. I think at such a young age, he's shown an unbelievable maturity to his game, and he keeps on improving. So if Saka's not fit, I think that's a huge blow, not just for the way Arsenal set up, but psychologically for the team as well, because he's their go-to man. And I can see it being tight, but I think, obviously, I'm going to say I can see Manchester City sneaking it.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.